Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We have another conversation today with another skincare founder. However, of course, her story is totally different, and she has a great message, which is in part to slow down. And I know that's really hard for some of us to hear, especially myself. However, she comes at it from such an interesting perspective, and I think you're going to love her story. Rebecca Ogilvie is a passionate person who believes we all have the ability to create a life we love. But first, we have to slow down. She founded the Detour Co. in 2022 after losing faith in mainstream skincare brands that hid behind catchphrases and rarely told the whole truth. The Detour Co. is a truly natural skincare brand that prioritizes earth-grown ingredients from the land, not the lab. Rebecca wants the whole truth, pure, authentic, and never watered down, just like her skincare. Let's dive into the conversation. Welcome, Rebecca. Thrilled to have you on the show today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Elena. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I love your story. Love your products. And I think you have some great things to share with our audience.
Thank you. I can't wait.
So why don't you
Let's
just
go.
dive right in? And yes, let's do it. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about who you are, and then we'll dive into your backstory. But let's just start with what you're doing right now.
Okay. I'm Rebecca, founder of the Detour Co., a truly natural skincare brand that I created out of a desire for something different. I work with ingredients from the land, not the lab, and don't water down my products. So any of my creams or butters are just made with oils and butters that actually help to enhance the health of our skin rather than deteriorate that important skin biome that we all work so hard to keep balanced.
I love that. And how many years or how long have you been doing this for?
Uh, 3.5, maybe 3.5.
Okay, so you've been in a little while.
Yes.
Learned a few things along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, before we dive into all of that, why don't you tell me what you were doing before you started the Detour Co.?
Well, we can go way back. I worked at an investment firm a very, very long time ago and met this guy who was like, I'm going to travel the world and quit my job. And I said, you're crazy, but you're cute. So we had this very fun summer fling. And then he left, he traveled, and he got hit by a motorcycle in Thailand, came home, and we've been together ever since. Since
This is your husband?
yes.
Oh, I love that.
So since the universe had clearly intervened and told us that we belong together, he was pretty adamant that he wanted to go travel again. So I said, okay, I'm with you. So we ended up going on 2 amazing long-term trips. I traveled for 8 months, and then our honeymoon was 14 months. And I really wanted to change my careers after that. So I had been working at this investment firm through a lot of that time. And when I came back from our second trip, I was looking for a different kind of lifestyle. So I moved into the wellness space. I became yoga teacher, meditation teacher, worked with a chiropractor, and became a mom along the way as well.
Mm.
So, and all through this, the entire time I was working at the investment firm or traveling or working in wellness, I was just toying around with skincare in my kitchen, making products for myself, for my family. It was just something fun I did. It was really playful and it gave me a space to experiment. And then eventually we ended up moving to Muskoka because we were looking to live more closely with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved here, I went looking for great skincare. I couldn't find anything that met my standards of not being watered down, focusing on ingredients that actually came from the earth. And my husband kind of encouraged me to try and sell the products that I had been making for myself and my family. And that's when the Detour Co. was born.
So this investment, we won't spend too much time on this, but the investment company sounds like a very much a job, as I call it. Like you're in the corporate world, like investment company, that's like black and white, black and
Yeah.
white thinking, not maybe as creative. Not to say there's not creative people doing investment work, but that's a big detour from where you are now, right?
Yeah.
So, what was it about that lifestyle, that world that just wasn't sitting with you?
In all honesty, it was the greed. I worked for investment advisors and they all some of them felt like different people when they were customer facing versus behind closed doors. And in some cases, there was almost a lack of integrity that didn't sit right with me. I had a hard time working for people that were a bit had different personas. Some of the salesy stuff just didn't feel truly supportive for the people who were saving for retirement. There was a disconnect for me. And and so I needed to do something that felt a bit more real, I suppose.
Yeah, interesting that you brought up the word integrity. I feel like some people aren't conscious of this, but that's often the disconnect. It's like the company they're working for, the work they're doing, something about it is conflicting with their personal integrity.
Mhm.
Sometimes they can't even put their finger on it. It's not obvious, but something's not sitting right. And when we get into alignment, I feel like the integrity piece is there. So we're being that more authentic piece. And I know personally, integrity is also important to me. And when I'm really out of whack, a lot of the times it's like it's just not aligning with that integrity piece or something's just not sitting right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so you make this huge leap and you started it as a hobby. So this was something you were making for friends and family only.
Yeah, I was just really making it for myself. It I just the very first thing I made was awful. It was too dense, it was really hard. You basically had to use a fingernail to scrape it out of the jar. And I was wondering, like, if I could make it better. Can I do this differently? Can I do this better? So I started to play around and figure out how to make different textures, what it could be like to add scents, learning about benefits of different essential oils or all these different things. It just was a really curious place for me to learn something, which I mean, going back to the investment firm, that's what I loved about that career. It was fast paced. There was always something new to learn. It was very exciting. And maybe in some ways, creating skincare tapped into those pieces of there was always something new to learn.
Yeah, which is the way I think really any entrepreneur has to be honest, because you have to have that there's some kind of internal desire. There has to be that flame to keep improving, changing, adapting, kind of moving forward, having the vision. And I know from what I've listened to on other podcasts that you've been on and your background, you are definitely into building the vision, or that seems to come naturally to you.
It does. It does. I think that's just the bottom line. People ask me all the time about the challenges of growing a business or what do I do when it gets hard or it's I just feel it in my soul that there's something important happening here and it's almost like this brand needs to move through me. There's something important here and I want to see it through.
Have you always had that very strong internal connection to what you're meant to do next?
No, definitely not. That's a muscle that I had to meet and build up. Um yeah, there was a few things that I did earlier in life that I chose to so for example, out of high school, I went to school for dance. It wasn't the most popular choice, but it was something I really wanted to try. And I think a lot of the times as humans, we can get stuck in getting it right. And back then, when I chose to go to school for dance, just to try it out and see what I thought of it, it was less conventional, but it still taught me something. I didn't know if it was going to be right, but I wanted to try it.
So then what's your take on mistakes and whether we make mistakes, whether mistakes exist? Like there's some people say we can't make a mistake. There's no such thing as mistakes. What's your take on that?
I mean, there's definitely mistakes. I spent thousands of dollars on ads last year that didn't turn into a single sale. So, was that a mistake? Probably, but I wouldn't know it was a mistake if I didn't try
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, I'm a firm believer in like everything is an opportunity. And this is a bit personal, but I want to see myself, love my life, be proud of the person I am. And if I look back on anything I've done, any experiences, I've had or anything that's happened to me or with me, if I look back in a negative way, then I'm harboring that negativity in my soul somewhere. But if I can look back and see it all as, well, I learned something there. I learned to do that, not that, speak that way, not that way. Everything has been a lesson and it's all added up to me, who I am today. And so if I'm going to honor and celebrate who I am, I feel like I have to honor and celebrate everything that got me here.
Yeah, I think honestly, that's the only way to look at it that I can see because, of course, we're gonna make mistakes. When I was in when I was in coaching school, this was, like, part of the training was, like, there's no such thing as a mistake, and it was on Zoom that we had to do the training, and, I could see everyone around the Zoom room basically not agreeing with this internally, like, they're thinking over every single mistake they'd made in their head, every childhood thing that they did that was stupid, they're judging it, we're doing that, and I think that was the point of this kinda lesson was to let go of the judgment around the experience,
Yeah,
and looking at it like it's a lesson that we can learn from, and it does make us who we are, and we wouldn't be able to reflect on the past the way we can now unless we had made those mistakes, quote,
absolutely.
unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me how it actually went from the hobby to the actual product and actually going into people's hands.
Okay, so I moved to Muskoka and I went looking for great skincare and I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I made a batch of my tried and true body butter in my own kitchen. And that's when my husband was like, why don't you try to sell this? So I love farmers markets. Like when we lived in London, we would go to the farmers market every week. It's so fun to like walk around, see what's there, meet the artisans, the farmers. And that felt like a comfortable place for me, and I figured, why don't I start there? So I applied to some farmers markets in the area, and I got into a couple, and so I just started making enough products to bring to these markets each week, and I got to just have conversations with people about their skin, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they believed about skin or skincare, and it was such a cool looking back, just the perfect marketing opportunity to actually get real life conversations that helped guide and form the beginnings of this brand.
And what were people saying about their skincare or looking for in skincare or just their general, like, routine? What was the burning questions?
Most people walked away scared because everything bugs their skin. Oh, I
Mm,
can't use everything. Nothing works for me. That was a lot of what I got at the beginning,
mhm.
which really showed me there was a space in for folks with sensitive skin
Yeah.
that needed to be safe and heard and supported rather than lied to, which is unfortunately what some skincare brands are doing. They're putting claims on their packaging. They're putting 80% water in something and then putting jojoba oil on the label, even though it's like 0.8% jojoba oil.
Mhm.
So I had to really nurture those relationships with people that had been hurt by the skincare industry.
Yeah, and when you were doing your research and you would be looking for products, were you getting annoyed when you'd see the claims on the front of the container and then you'd flip it over and you were obviously educated and could see that they were kind of misleading the customer?
Well, I would say I experienced it firsthand when my son was young. He had awful skin, sensitive skin, red, rosy cheeks the entire first year of his life. Every sunscreen that I put on him, he reacted to. So I can intimately remember walking down those aisles with rage, knowing
Mm,
that nothing worked and nothing felt safe. So when these people came to me, I was able to compassionately say, I hear you. I know it's hard. If you're open to trying this, I think it might be different for you.
yeah. I love that you said you had rage because sometimes it is infuriating
It
to
yeah.
like, we're
I
so
mean, I was mama bear mode. It
yeah,
was,
which is
like,
the best move.
protecting my
Yeah.
son, like, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's rage, and it's just we're constantly lied to as consumers. It really drives me nuts, and the more educated we become, and I love that people are being able to find information easier. We're being lied to all the time, and especially, like, listen, you go into Sephora, and a lot of those ones that get marked with that nice green check mark that they have, um, they're not as great as we would like to believe they are.
Yeah, yeah, it's, we rely a lot on labels and packaging and the phrases that are on there, but understanding where those phrases or check marks or certifications came from, some
Mm-mm.
of them are paid for. I mean, yeah. we could go down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole, but it's not as true as we believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leap from the like going into the farmer's market, what was your thought in terms of next steps? Like, did you see we're going to be doing farmers markets for a while, or do you think like this is just step one and I'm going to keep growing?
Every growth step I've made has been out of a conversation with my community. I was selling at farmers markets, and starting a business at farmers markets in Muskoka was a dream because
Hmm.
everyone comes here. So I had access to everyone in Ontario. People from all over the world were
Yeah.
coming and seeing and speaking with me and trying my products. And one of the questions I was getting asked a lot was, can I buy this online?
Hmm.
So then the next natural step was getting a website.
Yeah.
Since the events were such a profitable place for me to be, I started to expand. I noticed other vendors or businesses that showed up at different events. I would say, what event did you do last year that you loved? What was your best event that you showed up at? And I started to apply to those things. So my growth came from conversations, I would say.
Yeah. And I love that you started really small and accessible. Like putting something into a farmer's market or getting a booth in a farmer's market can be done. It can be done. You're not trying to go into the one of a kind show in Toronto or something like that, right? And I think so many times we forget that it's okay to start super small, like that we need to be instantly successful. And what I'm seeing when I look at kind of how you've built your business, it's very much a slow and steady growth with like a very kind of like a with logical steps as to how you're expanding.
Yeah, yeah, it has been. And I've always had the desire for this to become a bigger brand. But time and time again, I remind myself that I can do that in my own time and my own way. Whenever I look at what life could be like to grow faster, I'm not willing to make those sacrifices, like taking away time from my kids who are 6 and 3, and my
Right.
business is 3. So
Yeah,
that shows
right.
you what it's been like the last few years in raising kids and growing a business. Growing the business is not the most important thing in my life. Showing up for my kids is. And if my business can grow while I do that, then I've made it. That is success for me.
So it seems like you're okay with pacing yourself, doing things maybe a little bit more slowly than other entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, and it's just the business is at the point where it does sustain me and my family. So now the growth is just cherries on top. I can see what's next and what I would like to grow into, but I also don't want to rush because there have been times when I jumped into opportunities I wasn't ready for, and it almost maybe set me back, or it was one of those harder lessons to learn.
Can you share what one of those experiences looks like?
Well, I did mention the ads before. I thought ads was the next move for me. Do Google ads, do Facebook ads,
Hmm.
and people see your products and they buy them. And it just wasn't that simple
Yeah.
for me. People weren't familiar with the brand. I was contending with other bigger names potentially. For whatever reason, the ads didn't pan out for me. So that was something that I saw other people doing. It was something that was recommended to me for business growth. And yeah, it just cost me a lot. It was a tough one to learn in year 2 of business.
Yeah, because what can work for one brand, one company at that moment might not be the thing that works for us. And I think that can be that's a hard not only a hard lesson, but I think it can also be frustrating for people because it's like, well, it's working for them, why is it not working for me? Did you ever just feel annoyed about that or did you just accept it and move on?
Both.
Yeah.
It was a tough pill to swallow, but I also could see why it didn't maybe work at the time. I don't have like a national brand awareness. People in Muskoka know me and we were trying to promote more, Ontario based or further. And it's interesting. There's this idea that people have to see or touch point with you 7 times, 11 times. The statistics are different. So I think for many people, seeing those ads was the first time they had seen or heard of my brand, and it's tough to convert that first or second touch point to a sale.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize going into that that's something I would really be contending with. I didn't have a very realistic perspective, and I put in 8 months of it because I didn't want to just I knew I wanted to have a longer outlook. I didn't expect a big turnover in 2 or 3 months,
Mhm.
but I kept going, I gave it a shot, and then honestly, it was to the point where I was paying the ad agency and having a hard time buying groceries. So I had to end that because it was the financial
Yeah.
choice I needed to make.
Yeah. That's tough. That's a difficult experience to go through. What would you say is your favorite way to connect with customers now?
Now,
Mhm.
I love speaking at events. I would say that's my favorite thing to do right now. So I love showing up on podcasts. I spoke on a panel earlier this year. I actually just got off a call where I was speaking to a class at York University. I
Wow.
really love speaking with people and telling my story like I am here, giving a real perspective on what life can be like if you just let life lead you. You're allowed to change your mind, you're allowed to do things differently. Honoring yourself is always the most important thing, and I really wanna share that message.
Why do you think we're so scared? I'm gonna say we because it's all of us. Why do you think we're so scared to pivot and make changes?
Because life gets comfortable. I mean, I'm kind of in that now. When I was traveling, I didn't have a house or kids, but now, I have a business, I have staff, I have children, they are in school. The potential of moving or changing my business in some way, it takes a lot more thought and preparation than it used to. So the more ingrained we become in our habits and our rituals, change just becomes a bit harder. And on that point, I think the inner certainty and that connection with yourself to know when to make the move is really important. I used to just try everything, but now if I'm making a change, it's mostly a pretty thoughtful one.
Well, there's more people to take into consideration. You've got an established business now.
Mhm.
What is your main way that you check in to see if something is a good decision for you at that exact moment, at that time?
Hmm. I'm usually doing, like, internal checkpoints, but in terms of the brand, it's looking at statistics and research as well. So, let's use magnesium spray for an example. For a very long time, I didn't make or sell magnesium spray. Have been in the wellness space for long enough to know that there's a lot of magnesium spray out there. I figured I didn't need to be another brand selling it.
Mhm.
But enough people had asked me and bothered me and urged me that I started selling it, and so it was very clear that that became a choice I needed to make, and it's been really a great seller for me. Um, but that's something I pushed up against. I think a healthy amount of hesitation is smart. There's no rush. Take a breath when if an opportunity comes my way, I'll try and just take a breath because I usually have that, like, usually it's an initial yes because 'cause I'm, like, all in, "Yes, let's do everything." But if I can take a pause and look at my calendar, look at what's possible, then I can come to a better decision in these days.
So, were you surprised how well the magnesium spray kind of did
Yes.
and took off?
Yes, yes. I was really surprised that so many people wanted it, needed it, didn't know it existed. That kind of blew me away. I figured everyone knew that what magnesium spray was and what it was for. But it to this like, whenever I show up at markets and I say, "Oh, magnesium spray for sleep," it's an instant seller. So many people have a hard time with sleep, and it's also become a really great product for retailers. Because whether you're a health food store or a naturopath or a yoga studio or a gift shop, it it can sell anywhere.
Why don't you tell our listeners? I know all about magnesium spray, but let's educate them. What is magnesium spray? How can it help them?
Okay, so magnesium is I feel like it's everywhere these days. Everyone's talking about the benefits of magnesium, and magnesium is responsible for like 300 different functions of the body. And so become taking the oral supplement has become very popular. The way I differentiate it is that when you take the oral supplement, your body decides which of those 300 functions it goes to. When you use the topical spray, you decide where it goes. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, spray the soles of your feet. If you have indigestion, spray your abdomen. If you have muscle pain or achy joints, spray it where you need it. It's going to get into the bloodstream faster and support that specific area.
You explained that so well. And this is probably why people want to buy from you because it's like, oh, it's very clear. You're also really obviously excited about it. I always notice like when people talk about what they're doing, when they really light up, it's always just like it's so nice to see. And that is the farmers market community is selling in person. That's probably your zone of genius, just giving you an observation there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you
I mean,
know,
it's just been such a helpful learning curve. I've
yeah.
learned how to speak about my products based on the conversations and questions I get from customers.
Did you always have full belief in your products?
No, 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 no.
Okay, I think this is important to talk about because so many people I talk to who make things, whether it's art, products, skincare, whatever it is, they struggle with true 100% belief in their products. Their friends will talk about it like it's the best thing in the world, their family, whatever. Their dog probably talks about it more. But they personally struggle with that, like, hey, here is my amazing product. I really, recommend that you purchase it.
Yeah, I knew it worked for me, but I couldn't know if it was gonna work for anyone else. So I would say courage comes before confidence. I started selling it, and it's the feedback from people that have fed my confidence. My outdoor spray is a great example of that. So I make this blend of essential oils, I put it into a spray bottle, and I sell it every summer. It can help to deter the bugs, and it always worked for me. And the first year I sold it, my, like, marketing was like, "It might work for you, it might not." But I'm going into my 4th summer selling it, and I have 20 retailers in Muskoka that sell it, and I know it works. So I will tell people if this works in Muskoka, it will work anywhere. I have moms that come and get the outdoor rollers every summer because it's so helpful for black flies. So when I started selling things, I knew they worked for me, but I didn't have any market research or data to suggest it could work for other people until I started selling it. And then the feedback and the reviews and the return customers showed me that it is effective for others as well.
Okay, courage before confidence is definitely the way to do things. That is a brilliant way to say what is always being part of my message in that it's like you have to be brave and kind of put yourself out there in order to make any progress at all. And then you'll feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
It's like we wait for this magical moment where we're just going to suddenly like confidence is just going to drop into us and we're gonna feel amazing, without really taking any action or very minimal action, and we have to take, like, pretty big action.
Yeah. And you have to keep going.
Yeah. What do you say about perseverance then? Like, what are your thoughts on how we keep going when we're having those tough days?
Well, I feel the feels. If I'm having a hard time and I'm questioning all of my life choices, then I do. I sit there, I cry. I usually journal because there's probably going to be some deeper insecurity or wound that's kind of coming up in that moment. So I acknowledge any of the like discomfort and the growing pains for sure. But then I remember what I'm building. I have a very specific vision for the life I want to have, and I know that this is the path to get me there. So I look at what's real. I decide what's the next thing I can do. I choose one thing, I do that, and I just keep doing that over and over again. What is the next one thing I can do? If the big picture feels too big, then let's break it down, simplify, and do the next thing that feels best.
Absolutely, I love that. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on having a skincare routine and taking that time for ourselves every day.
I think it's life changing. I think it is the gateway for all of us to spending more time with ourselves. Too many of us are running around, racing through life, the hamster wheel, all of it. And if you create a face care routine that helps you slow down, spend time with yourself. The face cream I make is butters and oils that work really well with your warm skin. So massaging them into your face is gonna give you better skin, but it's gonna give you more of a connection with yourself because when you do slow down, when you do spend time with yourself, you really get to notice what feels good and what doesn't, what is right, what is not, what's exciting you and what's draining you. And if you're perpetually moving and doing, you don't have those opportunities to reflect. And you might notice 4 years have gone by and you're out of place, that you kind of lost the plot, right?
Mhm.
But the more often we can sit with ourselves and do some face care or massage your body after a bath, those are such important moments to connect with yourself so that you can continue to assess your life and create the life of your own design.
That's beautifully said. So I have a question for you as because you're a mom, and I'm not a mom, but my observation is that a lot of moms really resist taking, like, 5 minutes out for their day to,
Yeah.
like, and I know it can be I'm sure it can be so hard, but I'm also curious if there is that feeling that if they take 5 minutes out of their day, that's 5 minutes less for someone else, and they
Mhm.
feel bad about that. Or there is, and I'm guilty of being, especially in the past, kicking into um, the martyrdom, like, whereas, like, I'm gonna do everything for everybody else, my clients, my whatever it is, and I'm gonna ignore my needs because that makes me a better person. That means I'm working harder than everybody else. Can you speak to this idea that I've been just tossed out there?
I think if you're doing that, you're losing yourself, and I can speak from experience, that's what happened to me. So, in my earliest days of motherhood, I completely lost myself. I had no idea who I was, what I was supposed to be doing. It was like I didn't know if I needed to be here. What's the point? And in those impossible moments, I there was just a spark that said, like, "You need to do something for you," because I was giving and giving and giving, and I had been doing that for many more years than the few months I had been a mom, and I just hit a place where I had given too much, and I lost me, and something inside me said, "Just do something for you," and the thing I chose to do was face care. So every single morning, I would wash my face, moisturize my face, and at the end of the day, I could reflect back and know I had done something for me, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Mm.
So I started to build on it. It was like the more time I spent with and for myself, the more time I wanted with and for myself. We can't just give, give, give. It's not serving anybody. I wasn't showing up as the mom I wanted to be. I wasn't the person I wanted to be. If I'm not taking care of myself, I don't have a sense of self, and then I'm reacting to everyone else instead of moving from a place of love, which is what I actually want to do, and I think a lot of people want to do as well. So we need to spend time with ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can actually show up in the world in the way that we want.
Yeah, like, operating from a place of love, coming from that place is so much easier. Well, it's actually impossible if we're not having that time for ourselves because the resentment builds up so much. I know for me, when I would overgive, just the resentment took over my whole nervous system. Like, I
It
just
does.
resented, like, if you even asked me for one tiny more thing, I don't care if you've asked me for an extra cup of coffee, whatever it was, I would just be irrationally out of place. Like, I would just not be good. Um, and yet for a long time, I'd say all my 20s and 30s, I kind of did that.
Yeah, it's common. We're kind of taught to do it. We're women.
Yeah, it really is. I do think it is something that is, like, dumped on women. Plus, I grew up in a time where they were really celebrating this concept of the superwoman.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta do it all because you gotta have the awesome power suit, and then you gotta, take care of the children and do it all. Like, literally do it
Do it
all. Be
all.
on the
The house
PTA.
needs to be tidy, the meals need to be healthy, all
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah, and, it's just not possible. So I love this idea that you're taking something simple like a face routine, a skincare routine, and making it as, like, I wanna say self-care. I know, like, some people are like, there's a lot of backlash, like, taking a bubble bath isn't self-care. I was like, I'm gonna argue with that because I think these things that we do, these small rituals are immensely important.
They are, and call it what you want, but it's time with yourself.
Yeah,
I don't just sell skincare.
yeah.
I sell people time. When they're using my products, they get time with themselves, and that, in my opinion, is the most important thing. So however you do it, whatever your doorway to self is, spend more time with yourself.
What's one of the things that you've learned about spending more time with yourself?
What's one of the things I have learned about spending more time with myself? Nobody's gonna hand it to me. Nobody shows up and says, "Hey, here's an hour of time. Why don't you just do what you want to do?
Yes.
You have to carve it out. You have to prioritize yourself and you have to know that you matter enough to give yourself that time. It's
Would
a lot of self-awareness.
would you say that's now something that comes naturally to you?
No, yes and no. I have certain routines built into my life that help support me, but that doesn't mean I always get it right. Years ago, was listening to a podcast and someone was kind of saying, like, I meditated today, but that doesn't mean the day goes well. Like, we can have all these practices, but that doesn't mean we're always peaceful and calm and getting it right. I can have the routines that support me for most days, but every day is a little bit different. I have children and a business, so there's chaos.
Mhm.
And knowing myself, I need to notice when I need extra time for me.
And do the people around you understand that as well? Like, do you feel like that's also part of it, is that we have to communicate to the people around us that this is something that has to be built into our day, and everyone needs to build their own piece into their day?
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of self-responsibility that needs to happen. Like, we each need to take responsibility for our own lives. So if I know that I need to wash my face each day or that I really benefit from going for a walk each day, those are things that I need to do for myself. But communicating that to the people in my life and, telling my husband when he's putting the kids to bed, I'm going out for a walk. So if he comes out and I'm not here, he knows why. Communication is important, but you have to do it for yourself. Don't look for permission from others.
Mhm. That's a huge piece. I feel like for so many things in everybody's life, we're just like waiting for someone to say, "Hey, you know what? You get to do this now for 15 minutes," whatever it is. Like,
Yeah,
we wait. And I don't know if that's just a woman thing or if it's just, I don't know what it is, but it is bizarre.
it is. Well, and even like I've dabbled in entrepreneurship before. I had some other businesses. Fortunately, this has been my most successful one. But from the get go, I knew I didn't want to do it alone. And so I carve out time every week. I have a social day where I'm going to pick up the phone and call a friend. I'm going to meet someone for coffee or plan a lunch date. I know that running a business alone, and I do spend a lot of time as the primary caregiver in my home. So I do a lot on my own, but I don't want to feel alone. So I actively put things in my calendar that help me connect with others and feel supported and give me space to vent or rant or support and do the other human things outside of business and motherhood.
Mhm. Like, it sounds like you're actively seeking connection, because you know that's going to in a way, it feels like it's building your business, or it's like it's helping you expand your business and keeping you supported while you're building your business.
Yeah, because I can't build this business
Yeah.
if I'm not interested in burnout. There's a lot of stories about people who built businesses on burnout or got to the growth they hoped for and then burnt out. I don't wanna go there again. I've been there, it sucked. I'm trying the sustainable route this time.
Which is really the road less traveled, to be honest, because most of us are experiencing burnout. I've definitely recently gone through some. It's a thing, and I also have theories that it's expected of us to be in burnout mode, that that's kind of a societal expectation, that there
And
is
it's
a
celebrated. Let's just
it is
acknowledge
celebrated,
that.
yes. I it's like it's weird because it's celebrated, but at the same time, everyone, and I say this as someone, I'm putting myself into this camp, everyone has been kinda gone through it or goes through it, so it's this weird, mixed messaging. There's like, we don't want burnout and it's okay to take time for yourself and not have burnout, but yeah, we actually expect you to have burnout because then you're going to make a really good story for YouTube or Netflix or something like that. Like, there's this
Mhm.
weird thing going on. But what I find interesting is to hear you very consciously decide that you're not going down that path.
No, and I can tell when it's close
Okay, so how do you know when it's coming close?
because I'm frazzled and I'm irritable and I could cry at any minute. There's just this, like,
It's the
this
emotions.
tension in my body And that's usually when I look at my next day calendar, I clear it and
Hmm.
I call a friend and say, let's go for a hike.
Yep.
Because I'm not interested in pushing through either. I won't. I mean, not always. All of this, it has nuance to it, right? It's
Yes.
not black and white. There are days when I have to show up. But as much as I can, I want to honor myself. So if I can block out a day, move an appointment, shift around my manufacturing schedule to support myself, then I will do that.
I hope people are hearing that and they're giving themselves that permission in the space that they need. Because I'm also a believer that clearing the calendar, reducing that is like the first thing that has to happen when the
Yeah.
burnout's hitting. Like it's even if it's moving the dentist appointment, whatever is going to stop you or lessen you feeling frazzled and like you're being pulled in a million directions, that's what needs to like be cleared.
Yeah,
Because when it's those days where it's like the dentist appointment does become so overwhelming, you know it's not good. Like that's not we should not be overwhelmed by small things, right?
totally. Or if I am starting to feel that tension build and I look at my schedule and I have 3 events in the next week,
Mhm.
I'll, I can be intentional about it and I can say, oh, there's the day. On Friday, I have a hair appointment and that's it. So I'm going to clear everything. I did this last week, is why this is a relevant example. Because it's like my life was feeling very full and very overwhelming. And so I just messaged my staff, my like studio assistant. I said, here are the things for you to do tomorrow. I'm not going to be in. I ended up going to my friends for coffee in the morning, stuck with my hair appointment, and then went and sat by the lake for a few hours with my book.
Mm.
So I cleared the space that I could and did what I wanted with my time so that I could then show up to my weekend full of events with a bit more energy and peace.
Yeah, and I love that you live in Muskoka. So for the listeners who don't know where Muskoka is, because we have quite a few American listeners, it's like this magical place in Ontario. Like I'm a huge Muskoka fan. I spent a lot of time in Muskoka with because I had friends living up there, and there's beautiful lakes, and it's just when you said you were sitting reading a book by the lake, I was like, that is literally my dream. Like just to be able to
Yeah,
do that and to recalibrate and be in nature. I mean, I'm always a believer in connecting to nature when we're stressed. I feel like that's the simplest, easiest solution.
it is. It absolutely is. Yeah, we moved here because we wanted to be closer to the trees, but it really is the water, the lakes, the streams that have captured my heart. There's just
Mm.
something so peaceful about sitting next to water.
Yeah, we're very tree obsessed household here. We like
Yeah.
have a whole episode about thanking trees.
Yes, I
We're
love
just
that.
we're my husband started it like grabbing onto trees and thanking them, and I've been doing it. We're that weird couple that walks through the park, and I actually had a woman stop me. This is pretty funny. She thought I had vertigo because I was moving from tree to tree and kind of just like touching the trees, and like she
Mhm.
thought I couldn't find my balance and that I was maybe sick. She's like, she actually pulled me over. It's like, "Are you okay? Do you have
Aw,
vertigo?"
oh
And I
my
said,
gosh.
I actually was real straight up honest. I was like, "No, I just have this thing where," and then there's a set of some trees that I particularly love. I just thank the trees. And she looked at me like I was a bit crazy, but it didn't matter. We started talking about her rescue dog, and it was a really lovely conversation.
Who knows? Maybe she thanks the trees now. You
Maybe
never
she does.
know. Yeah.
I'm one of those people, I don't care if people think I look a little crazy. Anyways, so that's fine. But yeah, connecting to the nature piece, taking the time out, it's so simple, but so many of us don't do it. So I hope you hope you know that by saying that, I think you're inspiring other people to do the same.
Thank you. I hope I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I hope for this whole show is just to really, get a glimpse as to how other people are, obviously, like, lessening struggle, but just operating and choosing to do things a little bit differently because you have intentionally kind of bucked the system in ways.
I suppose so.
Do you ever get people, asking you, like, what was the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur? Like, do they get curious about making that leap?
Once in a while, I would say the thing I get asked about or commented on the most is my social media presence. I don't have a huge amount of followers, but I do show up a lot there in like a pretty real way. And so a lot of people ask me, how do you show up like that. So I think that that's something that I often get asked about.
And so what is the answer to that question?
It again, it kind of comes naturally to me, but it's based on experience. I mean, when I was a kid, we were making we were filming ourselves like making these Food Network shows. We used to make movies when I was a teenager. That's what I did. So me being in front of a camera, I mean, I was the lead. I was Dorothy in the play in grade 8. I wrote a travel blog for a few years. So I've had these vulnerable experiences at different points in my life. And when I ran the retreat business, it was all about supporting moms. So I was sharing some of the hardest parts of motherhood with the internet at that point. So I've had all these experiences in my life that make it easy for me to show up on social media today. And if somebody is just starting a business and just showing up on social media and has never been vulnerable in public, then I can understand it being uncomfortable. But I didn't just get here and show up this way. There are experiences that have helped me become more comfortable with how I do things.
It sounds like you have a bit more of a history of kind of leading up to these moments now where you're, kind of front row center.
I honestly feel like everything in my life has led me to exactly where I am and what I'm doing right now. They're too random.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful way to look at how things have transpired in our life because it gives everything purpose. And I do get these like moments where I look back on my life, my friends' lives, and you can see how the dots connect. And it's really cool to see.
It is. Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm so grateful. Like I love my life. I love what I'm doing. It's a really beautiful place to be.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all my guests, and that is in the spirit of helping people ditch the struggle, what is your number one recommendation?
Spend more time with yourself. I know I already said it, but that is my number one recommendation. Find something you love doing and do it often.
Why do you think people resist spending time with themselves?
We probably all have different reasons. Often it's a compulsion to remain productive.
Mm.
Spending time with yourself doesn't feel like something that's celebrated or achieving anything, but I think it is. I think you're achieving self-awareness and clarity on who you are and what you want.
Mhm. I think yeah, I love the way that you've said that, and I think the world would be a better place if we all took a little bit more time for ourselves. And I know that this has kind of reminded me of how much I love my skincare routine, but there's things I've stopped doing that made me feel good for my routines. And it's made me think about like, why did I stop doing that? Like, I actually used to listen to a guided meditation for my makeup application. So, like, my makeup takes me like 12 minutes if I do a full face. Okay. I
Yeah.
had this perfect guided meditation that was 12 minutes long, and I would do it for that time to like have a moment.
Yes, such
And
a good habit stack.
yeah, and I did this for like 6, 7 months, and then I just kind of like stopped. And so this conversation has like reminded me personally, just like, okay, let's get back to some of these things that were really enjoyable and good for me.
Yeah, I think we need to give ourselves so much grace. There's different seasons of life.
Yeah.
When I stepped into this year, I knew I would be changing every few months because I moved into my production space. So that changed my schedule of things. And now I'm moving into summer, and that shifts how much availability I have for my business. And then in September, both of my kids will be in school for the first time, and that's going to change things again. So I knew going into this year that I would be going through a lot of shifts.
Hmm.
And I'm doing my best to give myself permission to change in each season. And I think it's beautiful that you're reflecting and seeing that you'd like to get back to that. But I'm sure there were other things that came up in life that required your presence. And that's why you moved away from it. So, things come and go, and we just need to honor it all without being too hard on ourselves.
Yeah, it's letting go of like, I'm not going to sit here and judge myself for like, or beat myself up because I've stopped doing something helpful. I just find I do think there's seasons. And then I also do find it curious where sometimes something's working for us and then we just like abandon it. I mean, I personally do that.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, okay, I'm done now. Let's like move on. Meanwhile, it's like a huge benefit or is really feeling good. And
Yeah.
we're just really strange as humans. And I find that
We are.
interesting.
We're like creatures of habit, but we get bored so easily.
Yeah. Like, okay, on to the next thing. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I want to end by sharing where people can find you and find your products.
Absolutely. So the detourco.com. is my website. That's a great place to start. You're going to get a pop-up that invites you to join my newsletter, which just sends out one big, beautiful email each month. There's a love note. There's always an exclusive bundle and some product discounts. So it's a really great place to become familiar with the brand. But if you want more and want to see some face care tutorials and Muskoka living, then you can follow me on Instagram at the detourco.muskoka.
You have some amazing content. You do share incredible tutorials, very educational. And it's also just got a very personal vibe to it that I think everyone will be able to relate to. And I will say I have some on my desk here because I got some at a retreat. Your body butter is phenomenal. So that
Thank
is definitely something I think people should look at.
Yeah, it's my most versatile product. So if somebody just wants one thing to use for all the skin things, it's your simple skin solution.
Simple is good. We are team
Yeah.
simple over here. Amazing. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
You're very welcome, Alana. I really appreciate this conversation.
Take care. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.